warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbana zidna ilma. Allahumma faqqihna fid din. Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan tayyiba wa amalan mutaqabbala. Ameen ya rabbal alameen. So here we are with our session number 186, in which we are going to do Nahw and Sarf of Surah Taha, and we are going to start from verse number 83 today. And before we start verse number 83, I'm going to start a quick review of what we have done in our previous sessions. Okay, inshallah. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I have a verse from Surah Ali Imran right in front of you. If you can see, um, this sentence that I have just highlighted, what kind of a sentence you are seeing on my screen? I'm not seeing any answers. So yeah, can you hear me? Okay. So yeah, there is a jumla filia. Your jumla filia is starting with in. So if it is starting with in, it is jumla shartiya filia as well, right? So it is jumla shartiya with in as adwatu shart, right? And it is followed by mudare, that is majzoom. So we know that in here is shartiya, though you have learned three types of in, that can be in nafiya and in mukhaffafa min in sakila, but this in is in shartiya because there is a mudare majzoom after it. So um, all of you are well versed with this concept so far, right? So if you have jumla failure following in, you will look at fail, and the status of fail, as we have just discussed, is going to be, what is going to be the status of fail? If in is shartiya, it is adwatu shart jazima, and it is going to make your fail majzoom, right? And it is majzoom. What is the sign of jazm in this fail? How is your mudare majzoom in this fail? Tuti'u. The mudare is ending with waw. And if your mudare has pronoun waw, if your mudare has pronoun alif, if your if your fail has or mudare has pronoun yaul mukhatiba, in that case it is majzoom with the dropping of noon. Barakallahu fiki. And now you have found your status of the mudare, that it is majzoom because of in. You know the doer in this case is waw, right? Everyone is aware of that. You are now going to look for, in Jumlatul Failya, there is a fail, there is a file. After fail and file, the next step is that you are going to look for your, what should be maful, right? And allazina in this case is going to be your maf'ul bihi, as Sister Afsha has typed. Do you all agree with her? And allazina is mawsula. Yes, it is a small mawsul, and it connects what is after it with whatever has come before it. And in this case, it has connected a jumla failure, kafaru, with whatever was before it. And there's a sila that is following, and silatul mawsul is jumla failure, fail madin, la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. Right? Everyone agree with me? Okay. Now, what is going to be yarud? How will you label yarudukum? Now you have fail, file, maful, and then there is another something coming. Okay, so how will you connect? Okay, barakallahu fiki, Aisha. This is jawabu shart. Yarudukum is your jawabu shart. Ala aqabikum. Before we dissect the whole verse, let's just focus on the first one. So yarudukum is again, what kind of a sentence are you saying? It is if it is jawabu shart, it is jumla failya. Fail mudare is here. What is the status of mudare? Barakallahu fiki. Yes, it is majzoom with hasbun noon. And the doer is in this case again wawil jama'a. Do you all agree? The waw here is the doer. and kum is your maful bihi with kaf as your damir, and meme is telling you that this is for masculine plural. This damir, this pronoun is for masculine plural, right? Kaful khitab, yeah, kaful khitab, and mimul jama is are the making up your mafulun bihi. Okay, then comes jar wal majroor ala aqabi, and then comes aqabikum, which is your idafa, right? And this is all connected, and this is all going to be labeled as what is going to be the labeling for this. When you are seeing jarmal majroor in Jumlatul Felia, when you are seeing Jarmal Majroor in Jumlatul Felia, you label it as Muta'alliq bil Fail, MBF, right? It is going to be Muta'alliq bil Fail. Sometimes it can be Muta'alliq bil Hal too, but here it is going to be labeled as Muta'alliq bil Fail. Is this clear to all of you? Okay. Now you are seeing Fatanqalibu. Fatanqalibu. What are we seeing here? There is a fa, and that is followed by, okay, there is fa. And can anyone tell me what is this, the type of this fa? Okay, so Aisha is saying that this fa is fa'ul rabita. So what about the rest of the sisters? Diba is saying this is fa'ul sababiya. Faiza is saying sababiya. Faiza Abdurrab is saying that this is fa'ul sababiya. Afsha is saying fa is istinaf. Okay, now let's figure out this fa. My dear sisters, this verse was, I was doing this verse with one of our groups for word to word, and the sisters thought the jawabu shart is beginning with fatang kolibu, okay, which is is not right. Jawab is beginning with which fail? Is it beginning with tankolibu or yaruddukum? Yes, it is beginning with yaruddukum, right? It is beginning from here. This is the beginning of our jawab. Okay. Now, when you have beginning of jawab with mudare majzoom, then fa rabita, is it going to be right to call this fa as rabita that connects jumla shartiya with jawabu shart? No, it is not going to be correct to label it as fa rabita. Everyone, are you getting my point? Right? Though it is very simple, but this is something that we can get confused on, and this is why I brought this as for a review for this session. Okay, if does this sentence, which is mudare majzoom, need fa'u rabita? Is this mudare in need for fa'u rabita? Why not? Yes, I know that they should, this sentence does not need fa'u rabita. You are going to tell me there are certain conditions when my jawabu shart is going to need fa'u rabita. Okay, and this we have covered in our last session. In our last session, there are 7 conditions that you've been taught where you will need fa'u rabita, right? There are 7 conditions where you will need fa'u rabita. If those conditions are not there, you don't need your fa'u rabita. Your mudare is mudare majzoom. Your jawab is mudare majzoom. If it is mudare majzoom or if it is fail madin, fa'u rabita is not needed. Fa'u rabita is going to be needed if your jawab is jumlatul ismiya. If your jawab is command or forbidding. Okay, if your jawab is failul talb, which can be failul amr or can be fail nahi, la nahiya followed by mudare majzoom. If your jawab is beginning with qad, as we have learned it in our last session, faqad hawa, there was a qad before madin. That is why we needed fa'u rabita in the beginning of our jawabu shart. If your jawabu shart is beginning with ma nafiya, if your jawabu shart is beginning with lan, then there will be fa'u rabita before lan. If your fail madin is jamid, which include laysa, ni'ma, bi'sa, all these are fail madin. But I just told you, your fail madin does not need fa'u rabita, right? There was a sentence here that, my dear sisters, you have covered, and I told you the reason for fa here is qad, not fail madin hawa. Is it making sense? The reason why you are seeing fa here is because there was a qad in the beginning. Otherwise, if it was beginning with hawa, you would not need any fa rabita. It can be simply hawa. Okay? If there is a qad, you will need that. But how come in the same breath I'm telling you that laysa, which is fail madin, ni'ma, which is fail madin, bi'sa, which is fail madin, is going to need faw rabita when it is jawabu shart? Do you see something written on my slide that is a clue for the reason why faw rabita should be there? Do you notice that laysa, ni'ma, bisa, these af'al are jamid. These are jamid, right? These have no mudare forms. They don't have amar forms for themselves. So for these af'al, when they are in the beginning of your sentence or your jawabu shart, you will need faw rabita. Now that you have covered your sarf and you know you have an idea about fi'l jamid, it should make sense because in your qasam, again, you learned about fail jamid, right? So it is going to make more sense to you now that unless and until my fail madin is jamid, I will not need faw rabita. Faw rabita is going to be there if my fail is madin and it is jamid. Okay? The last case where you will see faw rabita is going to be if your jawab is beginning with seen or sofa. Everyone with me so far? If it is all making sense, kindly type 1. Now come back to your verse again of Surah Ali Imran and now look at this fa. The next fa that you were telling me that it could be is fa sababiyya. Fa sababiyya, if you remember in our last session, was something that comes after asalibu talb. There is going to be felul amr, felul nahi, istifham, hope, wish, hope, or some kind of persuasion. Does this jumla shartiya have any of that? For this fa to be fa sababiyya? What do you think? Is there any istifham before this fa? Is there any failul amr? No. There is no fa rabita? There's no taraji, tamanni. There is no persuasion means you are convincing someone to do something. In this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just giving the believers a condition. He's just, if you do this, then this is going to be the result of that. Okay, this is going to happen. Allah is not forcing them to follow kafaru, allazina kafaru. Do you think nida is this is your nida and this is your jawabun nida. Nida is kind of a talb where you are asking someone to give you attention, but for this type of talb, your talb for faw sababiyya should be one of these types. Cannot be nida. It can be al-amr, al-nahi, al-istifham, al-tamanni, al-taraji, al-ard, wa tahdid. This is the condition for that. And this has been, covered when we were learning about faw sababiyya. Okay? And if you still have any confusion, you have all your notes and that will be posted on your session, inshallah. Okay? Is this clear so far? Is everything making sense so far? This type of, in nida does not fall under asalibu tal that were there for your faw sababiyya. Does it? Anywhere you see nida, I did not put nida there. Or actually, these are, you get your notes from different resources, and I did not find nida as a source, as a talb for faw sababiyya. Okay, and it can be, faw sababiyya is going to be seen also after nafi. It can also be seen after nafi, something that I did not mention on this slide and that I was showing you. It faw sababiyya also can follow nafi. Okay, so don't forget that. I hope this is clear to all of you. So now, what option are we left with here? There is yaruddukum, that is majzoom, and then there is a fa that comes, and after that, fail is again majzoom. or can be majzoom, possibly majzoom. Now we have, ruled out Waw Sababiyya, so it is only majzoom here. So this Fa is going to be labeled as Waw Atf. You all agree with me? And you don't have to. If you are still confused about it, bring your questions here. Okay? You can ask me now when we are in session if you have any questions still. Okay? I hope everyone is clear how you are going to now say this mudari tanqalibu is going to be majzoom, and it is going to be khasirina is going to be hal mansub for Babil Jama'a here. Everyone with me so far? The the point or the purpose of this review was the purpose of this review was the purpose of the review was that you should know where your Fa'u Rabita is going to be found. Okay? Where your Fa'u Rabita is going to be found. Okay? So you understand why where you are going to expected to see Fa'u Rabita? Okay. Then B, so what category it falls under? Is that it looks like then B. What looks like then B here? You can unmute yourself, Sister Rabiha.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Gee, the question like if you do this, you are going to get this. So it looks like it's a warning.
Yeah, it's Jumla Shartiya, is a
It's a
condition.
warning.
Yeah, you usually see, if they do this, this one is going to happen. So in the next sentence, you are going to see in every Jumla Shartiya, there is some kind of a good news. There can be a good news and there can be warning both, right? It is just a condition that is set up, and then you are seeing as a response to a condition, and this can have a positive connotation and this can have negative connotation as well, right? Make sense? Because sometimes whoever does good, then he does it for himself, right? Whoever comes to Allah with the good deeds, and while as mu'min, then he is going to for them is the darajatul ula, right? You just covered something in Surah Taha. So every condition, there can be a good news, and there can be a bad news in it. Okay, so as you have just covered in your previous sessions, like whoever comes as a mu'min while he did amilus solihat, good deeds, then for them are the highest degrees, right? So here you are seeing good news here. Innahu man ya'ti rabbahu mujriman, whoever who comes to his Rabb as a criminal, then indeed for him is a jahannam in which he is neither going to live nor die. So no, I always reverse the order, but he will not die nor he live. So and this is what it is. So does it make sense? This is not, the Jumla Shartiya can have a warning in it, and it is just telling you that, if you do this, then this is going to happen, right? Especially those that are coming with in or man, and right? Keep that in mind. So yeah. So but when it comes to this sentence, I hope everyone is clear and everyone is going to spend some time on it. If there are still something things that are left unanswered or unclear. In the last session, there was a question about what we were doing with our um, man, Arabu man, right? So is everyone now good with the idea that what are we going to see in any given sentence when we are giving Arab to our man shartiya? Type 1 if you have some clarity about that. Okay, Rabiha is good. Barakallahu fiki. Aisha, you are good. So if you do not see, like in this one, man yahlil alayhi ghadabi faqad hawa. So here we are seeing, we are still labeling, our man as mubtada. Why so? What was the reason that we called it mubtada and not labeled it as mafulun bihi? Fail is already engaged, right? So now when you will go back to your slides, it's always busy. Okay, so now you should all know some of all are going to be some af'al are going to be taking a direct maf'ul bihi, right? It is going to be nasb status, and it's going to be no-brainer to label man as mubtada in that case, right? If there was a maf'ul bihi after yahlil, which was nasb status, will you have any confusion? What do you think? You would have had no confusion in that case. But what happens in some of the cases when your af'al cannot take a direct object, they have to have, they act on something through a medium of a preposition, which was the case here, alayhi, right? Yahlil is still engaged with he, but through a preposition. Does it happen in Quran? Or this is something this is an exception? This happens in Quran many times, and that is why you now need to, you know, understand that whenever you are learning one concept, you may be supposed to apply it on something else that you have not, it was not very clearly written down, but you still have to make sure that you know how to apply that very concept on the upcoming new concept that you are covering. Okay, so if by and I told you, as I mentioned in our last session, your fail is not going to be engaged with the same thing on both sides, right? So this was a very oversimplified statement. The thing is, your fail is already engaged with he here on its left side. So on the right side, man has to be mubtada, right? Always bring ishtighal in your mind, because man shartiya, ma shartiya, and istifhamia, in those cases ishtighal that you have already covered is going to come in handy. It's the concept of ishtighal you can apply. Okay, and for those of you who are still struggling, and you're still finding it challenging to figure out how to um, deal with these type of these advanced concepts. For you, it is, I just made it, try to simplify it, that yahlil already is busy with he, so man has to be mubtada. Okay, just whenever you have verses like that, just see if yahlil, if your fi'l is already acting on something either by the help of a pronoun or directly, then man has to be mubtada. Okay, so in our last session, we also went over al asmaul mawsula that can be mukhtassa and mushtarika. You are going to find the slide for this in your slides that will be shared for with you on from session number 185. Was it clear to all of you how ma and man are mushtarika, and how allazi, allazani, and allati, allatani, allati, allai, and allazina are very specific, and that is why they are given this name muhtassa. Okay, so when you are going to see man, you know that man can be for, man is very, it is not, it is shared by, masculine, feminine, it is shared by singular, plural, everyone can be included in this man. Okay, so that was a quick recap of what we have covered in our last session. Now again, when I was showing you this, I have another question for you before we go on to cover our today's session. Do you see here man ada fayantaqimullahu minhu wallahu azizun zuntiqam? Can you see here? Do you see what kind of a man here is? Do you see this man here? And can you figure out what type of man is this? Just focus on this part of the verse, and forget about wallahu azizun, just for okay. First of all, among the three types of man, before we go on to call it anything, mubtada or maful or anything, just think about what type of man is it in terms of the three types. Is it mausula? Is it shartiya? Is it istifhami? I am seeing all different types of labeling for this. So whoever he transgresses, then Allah will take revenge from him. So when I translated it, the way I translated it, doesn't it sound like man shartiya, right? Make sense that this is man shartiya? Man ada, whoever he transgresses. He transgresses. Man ada, he transgresses. He transgresses is kind of a fail which looks like lazim. Man is going to be labeled as mubtada, and ada is going to be the khabar for the this mubtada, and you can call the jawab as khabar as well. Okay, everyone with me so far? Alhamdulillah. Now look at what is coming up as jawab. What is the jawab here? Okay, very good job. Jumlatul failure is a jawabu shart. Okay, so when jumlatul failure is jawabu shart, you are not seeing any istifham. You're not seeing any, I'm sorry, amar or nahi. There is no talb there. There is no qad there. There is no ma there. There is no lan there. There is no fail jamid. Is it asa, bisa, ni'ma? There's no seen wa sofa, right? Nothing is there, right? And you're seeing a faw rabita here, right? Was it needed here? Do you think it was needed? No, it was not needed, right? So, but it is still there. So, explanation for this is that there was a huwa after it, huwa after it, huwa yantaqimullahu minhu. Then Allah will take revenge from him. Does it make sense? And this jumla that is there is the khabar for that, the khabar for that huwa that has been omitted from there. Okay, so this is one of the few where, I think that maybe just one example where you are seeing, as I mentioned earlier, you are not expected to see faw rabita before fail mudare or fail madin. But if you are seeing faw rabita, it should make you think that there is some kind of an exception, and there can be something that has been omitted, that has been mahzoof. And what was mahzoof from here? Huwa mubtada has been omitted, and yantaqimullahu minhu is the khabar of that mubtada. Is that clear to all of you? Isn't it interesting? Yeah. And is this making sense? If it is not making sense, for those of you, if it is not making sense, make sure you know where to see faw rabita. And if you are seeing faw rabita where you do not expect it to be seen, then start developing, that clarity. Yeah. So that is, think about it. This is something we may have went over it briefly. We may have went over it briefly in some of the sessions, because this was something that a sister asked me when she was doing some quizzes. So this was the example that I figured out everything, what is expected, when fellowship mudare, fellowship madin, and what is the expected jawab. And this has all been shared with you all. I think, if I hope, um, and I'm positive it has been shared. But this is something, we may have not gone into, great details. We may have not discussed in detail, but now I'm discussing it when there is a confusion that, when automatically everyone assume that every fa that is seen in jawabu shart is going to be fa rabita. So you must, know what are the places where you are going to be seeing fa rabita. Okay, when we see mudare with fa rabita, we can, yeah, so there can be, there can be, this possibility, just like you are seeing that there was a mubtada that has been omitted, which was huwa, and this is the khabar of that mubtada. Yes, makes sense. If I now ask you, what is the status of this jumla, this sentence, which is coming after fa? What is the status? Rashta, look at the fa before. Look at the fa before. Now your jawab is muqtarin bil fa. So think of it like that. But every time your jumla ismiya, every time when your jawab is jumla ismiya muqtarin bil fa, you have to label it as fi mahalli jazmin. Dilruba, right? You agree? It is going to be fi mahalli jazmin when, and this is going to be the case when your adwatu shart is adwatu shart jazima, because there are other adwatu shart that are going to be seen with fa, but they are ghair jazima, so you don't call your jawabu shart as fi mahalli jazmin. What will be the jawab of law? What will be the jawab of iza? What should be the jawab of iza? What do you think? Any jawabu shart, ghair jazima, the jawab, no matter if they have anything, does not matter what comes before them, does not matter what comes before them. It is going to be having no status. It is going to be labeled as la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. It has no status, right? Make sense? Okay. Now, this jawab, yaruddukum, yaruddukum. What is the status of this jawab? In tuti'u allazina kafaru yaruddukum. What will be the status here? This one. The fail is majzoom, but the whole jumla, yaruddukum ala aqabikum, the whole sentence. If you take it as a whole sentence, it is going to be la muhalla laha min al-i'rab. And what is the reason? What is the reason for it to be la muhalla? You have to give me the reason. No fa, barakallahu fiki. Yes, there is no fa there. And what is the second reason? What is the second harf that can come and can make your jawabu shart as fi muhalli jazmin? Remember, it can be iza, right? So if your jawab has fa rabita in the beginning or iza fijaya, both those cases, what do you need for your jawabu shart to be fi mahalli jazmin? Number one, your adwatu shart should be adwatu shart jazima. Okay, it should be ma, man, in, that kind of adwatu shart. Second condition is your jawab has to begin either with fa'u rabita or iza fujaiya. Okay, if these conditions are not met, what is your answer? La muhalla laha min al-i'rab for jawabu shart. Okay, is this clear to all of you? I hope, I just don't want to rush to a new concept without covering whatever is still, unexplained, or, it still confuses you all. So I think that is a good recap of what we have covered in our previous sessions. And now, if I have one more question before I cover what was supposed to be the lesson for today. If I ask you about this verse from Surah Al-An'am, Ya qawmi i'malu ala makanatikum inni amilun fasawfa ta'lamuna man takuna lahu aqibatud dar innahu la yuflihu zalimun. What is this who? Do you remember this who ever? What are you going to? Yes, it is nasba ismuha. Yes, it is nasba mansub, and Rabiha and Diba are very right that this is going to be labeled as Damiru Shan. Damiru Shan. And why are Dilruba and Diba and Rabiha are calling it Damiru Shan? Can anyone explain? Can anyone tell me? Why is it Damiru Shan? Yes, it is Nasba Mansub, but why? It is not going back. Barakallahu fiki Afshan. I'm so proud of you all. Make sense? Even if something does not make sense, but review, practice, exercising it, time and again is going to solidify your concepts, my dear sisters. Okay? How you take baby steps, you go back to your lessons, it is going to make you master all these concepts that you are still confused about. Okay? Because, sometimes the pace of the course may appear to be very fast, but we are doing a lot of recap in our, new sessions. Whatever I bring to you, I try to make sure that we review whatever has been covered in the past. Okay, I'm trying, but inshallah, yeah. So this one, because you do not have any noun that it is going back to, it is going to be This who is going to be Damiru Chan. Okay? Yeah. So let's now focus and let's begin our verse number 83. We have covered it a little bit, I think, but we'll just make sure we learn about Ma al Istifamia. We review our Ma al Istifamia. Who was able to go over the notes of Ma al Istifamia? Anyone? Were you able to go back to Ma al Istifamia and how you label it? You tried, Barakallahu Fiki. Okay, now let's do it together. If there was a Ma that is Istifamia, first, I want you to know, think of it as any ism, okay? And it can have all three statuses. It can be Rafa, it can be Nasb, it can be Jar. Does it make sense? It can be Rafa, Nasab, or Jar. When it is when it is in a sentence where it is followed by an ism which is common, it is going to be, if it is followed by an ism which is common, if ma al istifhamia is followed by an ism which is common, you must know it is going to be, if it is followed by an ism that is common, it you label it as mubtada. Okay? Label it as mubtada. If it is followed by an ism that is common, your ma al istifhamia is mubtada and it is rafa in status. Now comes al ism that is proper. When it is followed by an ism that is proper, it can be rafa. Again, it's going to be rafa in status, but it can be labeled as mubtada and it can also be labeled as khabar. Both options are there. Do you all remember? There can be both options. If ism after it is common, you label it as mubtada. If it is followed by ism marifa, it can be either way. Both options, if somebody says that this ma lawnuha, the ma is khabar muqaddam, that is right answer. If somebody says that I'm going to label it as mubtada, it is going to be the right answer as well. Is it clear to all of you that when it is followed by common, the only option is mubtada? If ism following ma istifhamia is common, you are only going to label your ma as mubtada. If it is followed by an ism that is proper, then both options are going to be right. It can be ma, which is khabar muqaddam marfu, or it can be mubtada. Okay? When you have jar wal majroor after it, when you have zarf after it, when you have fail lazim after it, when you have fail nakis that has its khabar after it, which is like kana with a khabar after it, if you have fail that is passive after it, if you have fail that can take maful bihi and has its maful bihi mentioned after it, what are you going to label your ma? You are going to call your ma mubtada. You are going to label it as mubtada. Is this clear to all of you? If you see ajalaka, ajalaka, is it it should be no brainer that the fail already has a maful bihi attached, and I'm going to label ma al istifamia here as mubtada, right? It is going to be labeled as mubtada because my fail is already engaged, right? So ajalaka ka is your maful bihi, you are just going to label ma al istifamia as mubtada, right? If if your fail after your mal istifhamia is nakis, which can be kana wa akhwatuha, but does not have his khabar. Khabru kana is not mentioned after kana. In that case, mal istifhamia is going to be labeled as khabru kana. Okay? You just have to know this. Then in that case, it is taking the place of khabru kana if the khabar is not mentioned after it. When your ma is coming before a fail, that is mutaaddi, but it does not have its maful bihi there. In that case, you are going to label your ma al istifhamia as maful bihi muqaddam. Is this clear? And there is a lot of memorization on this. When you go through this, slide, I know there is a lot of memorization that you have to do. But this is all based on the concepts. There is no option for fail lazim to have a maful bihi. Is there? If your fail is lazim, Can there be any other option for mal istifhamia? There is no, that fail cannot take a maful bihi. If it is shubu jumla, which includes jar wal majroor and zarf, just simply label your ma as mubtada. Ism marfa, you can call it mubtada or khabar. If it is followed by something which is nakis and has its khabar mentioned after it, in that case, you are going to label it as mubtada. And again, for passive, if ma is followed by passive, ma al istifhamia has a passive after it, label it as mubtada. If it has a fail that can take a maful bihi and maful bihi is mentioned, label it as mubtada because there is no possibility of maful bihi now in this case. Okay? And then ajala ka, it was fail madin, wal fa'il, damir mustatir hua, ka was jab maful bihi, an comic is jar wal majrur muta'alliq bil fail, and ya Musa was your harf nida wa munada. Are we all clear with this verse, or you have any questions? Right? Is this clear to all of you? Alhamdulillah. Then comes your verse number 84. Verse number 84. Before I go to verse number 84, how many of you are going to be able to memorize this slide for the next session? Because I'm going to ask you questions. I will make a review on this. Type how many of you will be able to memorize it so that you learn it by heart, so that it's clear to all of you. You have to, I'm going to make some questions, and I want you to make sure that you go over this slide, and there are other details, maybe possibly in your session number 135, where you have all the information about how you label ma istifhamia, so that's going to make your job easy. Okay, there is no easy way, and sometimes there's no easy way, but inshallah, with practice things become easy to you, for you. Okay, inshallah. Okay, now comes your jumla failure. Now I'm going to um, um, do with you in verse number 84, which is beginning with qala, which was fail madin wal fa'il damir mustatir hua, and after qala yakulu, you see your makulul qawl in almost 99% of cases, and you do have makulul qawl fi mahalli nasbin. And here you can call home as what is the labeling for home? What kind of a makulul qawl we have? Is it jumla ismiya or jumla fi'liya? It is jumla ismiya. Home is going to be labeled as, you can label it as mubtada. Ula is going to be is khabar. Ala asari is going to be jar wal majroor mutaalliq bil khabar. Right? Easy so far. Then comes your wow. They are on my footsteps, like they are following me, and they are close on my tracks. And wa'ajiltu ilayka. The wow, you can call it as at. You can call this wow at. There is another possibility, but let's just see what this verse is saying, and then we can figure out if that is possible. Ajiltu ilayka. What kind of a sentence? Ajiltu ilayka. Jumla failure with fail madin, wal file. What is a file here? Ana is a file, barakallahu feek. And what is, do you see damir baris or mustatir? Is damir of the fail baris? Yes, it is baris, and ta is the file here, right? Taul file is the doer here. Ilayka is going to be your jar wal majroor mutaalliq bil fail, right? Rabbi. Rabbi is an idafa, barakallahu fiki. But what is here going on here? It is munada with harf nida ya mahzoof. Every nida munada, do they make a sentence? Yes, they make a sentence. Okay. 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 So we'll come to that sentence in a minute. Li tarda. Li tarda. What is happening here? Li with tarda. What are you seeing here? Li is going to be, what is the name for this li? Li is lamutalil, and there is a fail mudare that is after it, which is, what is the status of mudare after lamitali? It is nasb status, and it is showing its nasb status with fatatul muqaddara, barakallahu feek, and tarda has a pronoun. Can anyone tell me? Is it hidden or visible? Is it baris or mustatir? It is anta, and anta, can you see anta here? It is mustatir. Very well done. Very well done. What is the role of ta here? Because many of the sisters think that this ta is the pronoun. What do you think ta is doing here? It is just a lamatul mudare. It's a sign of mudare, right? What made this mudare mansoob? What is making mudare mansoob? Is li making it mansoob, or there is something else? There is an after it. Barakallahu fi Dilruba, Diva, Afsha, Aisha, that there is a hidden an Rabiha after li that made Mudari Mansoob. What is the status of Masdarul Mu'awwal with an tarda? If I ask you the status of Masdarul Mu'awwal that made Mudari Mansoob, it is going to be jar and status, and the whole construction li tarda is going to be jar wal majroor muta'alliq bil ajiltu. Do you all agree? متعلق بالأجلت, right? This this jumlatun nida, did it, what should you name it? This is jumlatun nida. It is la mahalla. Every jumlatun nida is going to be la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. Can you give it another name? Can you give me another name among the different sentences that I've taught you so far? There were tafsiriya, there were taliliya, there were muakkida, etaradiya, barakallahu fiki. Very well done. A sentence that comes between two grammatically related structures. Did it come between two, something that was grammatically related? Ajiltu, litarda. Are they grammatically related? Yes or no? Did you not call litarda as muta'alliq bil fi'l ajiltu? You did. You did. And this jumlatun nida is inserted in between two grammatically related structures. Can it be called as jumlat etaradiya? Yes, it can be labeled as jumlatul etaradiya. Jumlatul nida and etaradiya both can be the labeling for this rabbi, right? Because that sentence that is inserted, that interjects, that comes at as interjection is what is jumlatul itiradiyya, right? And all those sentences are la mahalla laha min al-i'rab as well, just like your jumlatul nida is la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. Everyone with me so far? Is this information making sense, or are you very, very confused? Is this something that we have covered in our past session? Yes, we have covered everything in detail, right? Always remember, now you're just applying it. Many of us know that, beta blockers are very good, right? But when to give them, right? When to start Entresto, when to give a higher dose, when to give a lower dose. This is what we learn through practice. This just does not come, through ratifying things from the books. This, you practice, you act, um you have to go through a drill. You have to practice, and then okay, this person is going to be doing well on this medication, and this person may not be able to tolerate, this is not for this person, okay? And this takes you years of experience, right? Same is with anything, right? So practice is something that is going to make you perfect, okay? You may know, all these, you may learn the names, but how to apply them is what you have to learn, okay? And this is going to come through practice. Let's go. And okay, so now this was, I was, thinking of this vow, to discuss a vow. Can we give this vow, and can we call this vow as hal as well? They are, okay, let me see the translation. Let me bring the translation to you. So they're saying, I hasten to you, my Lord. Um, they are close upon my tracks, and I hasten to you, my Lord, that you be pleased. Okay? So they are on my tracks, they're following me. Literally, they are following me while I'm hastening to you. I'm rushing to you. In this, they are on you following me, and but I am rushing to you. This vow can it be called as hal? Yes or no? Yes, there is no qad. There is no qad. There is no qad before jumla failure fail madin, and that is a very important point. But also keep in mind, sometimes there are, you usually, if I ask you to tell someone how is your jumla failure madin going to begin, if it is coming up as hal, the first thing you are going to tell them is you are going to see qad or waqad before it. Yes? Is this clear? Everyone is going to say that there will be a qad or waqad before it, right? But sometimes, you may find it, you know, that, some things are used in language and sometimes they may not always be used in language. Because, we are talking about not just some grammatical rules. We are talking about how people of those times used to talk, how they used to say their jumlatul haliyas and in their day-to-day conversations. So, do I always make sure that whatever I'm telling you is grammatically correct? I make so many grammatical errors when I'm even speaking in English, right? And even when I'm speaking in my own language, I make tons and tons of grammatical errors. I don't um, always say whatever I have to say. Yes, qad and waqad is going to be, number one thing that you have to tell someone is, I want each and every one of you to know is that if it is fail madin, it must begin, you the first when you are teaching grammatical rules, you have to tell them, you have to tell people there will be qad or waqad. But here, there may be some exceptions, and we can say that wow by itself can suffice, just like we were seeing magicians bowing down, and we still label qalu amanna as jumlatul haliya as well. I had no objection to that. Similarly, this wow can act as a rabit between the two sentences. Do you think I can think of it as a rabit, that this was the one that suffices as a rabit that is connecting the first sentence with the next sentence? What do you think? This wow halia, can I can think of it as that, right? So, when you tell someone, you must have this openness of mind that there may be some exceptions sometimes. You may not see qad, and the whole thing may make total sense. But the first and foremost thing is, you must know that your jumla felia fail madin, when it is jumla halia, it will have qad before it. Okay, but there may be cases when it is not there, right? When it is not there, and what is connecting the connector wow, if there is no pronoun in the sentence after it, they are up on on if there is no connector, then wow can suffice. But here we are also seeing a pronoun that is going back to asari, this ya, they are on the they're following my foot tracks, my tracks, while I'm rushing to you, right? Make sense, everyone? Okay. Okay, now let's go and do this verse number 85. Qala is fail madin, wal fa'il damir mustatir hua, makulul call is beginning. Fa is something, how do you want to treat it? Sometimes you may see it labeled as zaida, sometimes you may see it labeled as fa'uz zaida, though we usually don't learn zaida fa like this. But it may be just like rabbana walakal hamd, that type of a wow, that wow zaida is there without any connection to the previous thing. The wow is there, but some may think of it as something that has a lot of information hidden underneath, and in that case, why would you call it sababia? Why would you label it as sababia? Remember, sababia usually is going to be seen after aslubut talb, but this is jumla khabariya, right? You are not seeing anything before. You can, the one that has embedded lot of information in it is fasiha, so you can consider it either as fasiha or You can consider it as zaida. Some may say it zaida, and some may say it as istinaf too. Okay, so this is, a new sentence is beginning after it. But that is mostly you may consider it, after qala, if something like that is coming, you may see it being labeled as zaida. Okay, fa and waw can be seen after waw, and sometimes the waw is making connection with the previous duas. You have seen it in Surah Al-Baqarah, where Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim, Rabbana waj'alna. Then comes a waw that is connecting the first dua with the second dua coming after qala, right? So there is an option, but there is a, some may call that waw as zaida, and some may, call it as a connector. But if zaida makes sense to you, more sense to you, you can label it as spouse zaida. Okay, but then do not forget about the muadeh of fau zaida, where you have learned your fau zaida, right? So keep those cases in mind as well. Okay, so let's begin with inna. Inna is beginning your shirt. Oh, sorry, not shirt. Inna is your, what kind of a sentence? What are you seeing here? It is going to be your Jumlatul Ismiya Nasab wa Mansub. Inna is inna and na. Nasab have nasab wa ismuha, and qad is going to begin your, what is beginning with that, with qad? Okay, no, after inna, what do you expect to see? Inna wa akhwatuha, there is an ismu inna, and there is going to be a khabru inna, right? You're going to see a khabru inna, and khabru inna is beginning with qad, right? And qad is harf tahqiq wa tawkid. Fatanna is fi'l madin, wal fa'il naul mutakallimin. Qawmaka is maf'ul bihi, right? And ka is majroor, because it is mudaf ilayhi for qawma, which is light and has no al, right? Mim badik is going to be jar wal majroor muta'alliq bil fi'l, right? Wow, you can call it as your at, okay? And then adallahum is going to be labeled as, what are you going to label your adallahum? That is matuf, and that is jumlatul failya. With fail is here fail madin, right? And hum is going to be maful bihi, right? And what is the reason for the ma on the meme when you mostly see meme with sukoon? Why is there the ma on the meme of home? Anyone? Because of they are two sakinain together. So for iltaqai sakinain, you are seeing a dhamma on the first sakin letter. Okay, and asamiriyu is going to be labeled as, it's the file. Barakallahu fi. This ya at the end of Samiriyu. It's an outside doer for Adallah, Barakallahu Fiki. And what is the ya, the type of ya here in the word, in the name, As-Samiriyu? If I'm telling you that this is a particular type of a ya, if I asked you, give it a name, what kind of a ya it can be, which is coming at the end? Very good job. Very good job. It is. No, no, mutakallim does not make sense. And mutakallim does not have to be mushaddad or anything, right? It was my samri. Why? You will never have a ya mutakallim with an ism, and you see it as a mudaf ilayhi with a name. Names are not going to be coming up as mudafs. So if you call this ya as mutakallim, you are saying that samir is going to be a mudaf, but names cannot be mudafs. Do you ever see names as mudhaf? No, you don't see them as mudhaf. And the clue for yaun nisba is that it is mushaddida, right? It is mushaddida, so it is yaun nisba, right? There was a clan there that was Samra with Tamarbuta, and from there Samiriyu came, and this ya is yaun nisba, and it is mushaddida, and this is just a yeah that gets attached, and whatever ism that it attaches itself to, it's usually will be getting a kasra, right? How is attaches to any ism? The ism before the ya gets a kasra. Is this clear to all of you that this ya is going to be ya nisba? Everyone? There are five types of ya that you have covered. It cannot be mutakallim because your mudaf cannot be a name as such like that. It cannot be mukhatiba, right? That is also going to be with sakin. It cannot be yaul irab. It does, that is yaul irab is going to be seen in duals and plurals, right? And it's also going to be seen in special asma, which are zu, zazi, that those ones, zi, abi, akhi, hami, fi, those, that is yaul irab, that gives you the status. But this ya, does it have anything to do with the status? Does it make an ism rough in status or nasb in status or jar in status? Not at all. So this ya is not yaul irab. Cannot be yaul mudariya. It is not yaul mudariya. Where do you see yaul mudariya? Where do you see in a word yaul mudariya? You are expected to see yaul mudare in the beginning of the word, right? Yansuru. Very well done, Spiza. It is seen in the beginning or in the start of the word. So this is not in the beginning, cannot be yaul mudariya, but it is at the end, just like ajamiyun, Arabiyun, Rumiyun. So this is yaun nisba. With that, I will have to end the session. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm so sorry. I went over my time, as most of the time I do. But my apologies. But if you have any questions, feel free to send them in your group. Inshallah, I will be addressing them then.